We're going to focus now on Georgia's foster care system and how to improve it, some possibilities. Joining us is Republican Senator Kay Kirkpatrick of Marietta. She's a former physician. She's chair of the Senate Children and Families Committee and vice chair of Health and Human Services. Welcome to Lawmakers. We got a lot to discuss here because it really is a crisis in the foster care system, isn't it?
There's always been a crisis and it's continuing. But we are working hard on making progress, and we have been for the last few years since the Children and Families Committee was created in 2023. Lieutenant Governor Jones was behind that, and I'm honored to be the chair of that committee. We've also had 3 study committees already, and we've got another one coming up.
There's so much to look into. I talked to you in November about the work on the bipartisan Senate study committee that you chaired that reviewed resources for children who age out of foster care. And one of those gaps you found is with enrolling them in school when they were young. Talk about that one.
It's not so much when they were young, it's anytime they change their placement and change their school, they're supposed to be immediately enrolled. And as a sort of an unintended consequence of the school safety bill that we passed, sometimes those enrollments are delayed while the receiving school waits for records, some of which are not even eligible to be released. And so we've got a bill that is coming up that will actually insist that the school districts enroll them right away. And I think that bill is much needed because we heard testimony from some of the kids. Some kids lost credits. Their credits didn't transfer in a timely way. They had to repeat classes. We even had one young lady who had to repeat a year because of the delay. So we just want our school districts to understand that foster kids are facing challenges that other kids don't have. And that was one of the many things that we covered in that committee.
Yeah, I know you were focusing on the aging out, but you found that talking to them, there were things that happened when they were young that affected how they aged out of the system.
That's exactly right. In fact, one of the things that we don't do a lot of in the legislature is prevention work. And as a physician, that's important to me. And we turned up some information that kids who are in the foster system are 6 times more likely to have autism. And
wow.
If we know that if you diagnose and treat those kids early, they do much better. They have better outcomes. And if the diagnoses are made late, and it's sort of a vicious cycle. It's the kids have a diagnosis that hasn't been made and they haven't had treatment for. They then have trouble staying in foster homes or being adopted. And sometimes they are these kids who end up in hotels. And so we've got a bill, it's not my bill, Senator Tillery's bill, to try to expand a pilot that we did on that last year. And Dr. Michelle Zena is behind that and is doing great work. So we're trying to gradually expand that to all the regions in the state.
Explain to people who don't understand what it means for these kids to go into a hotel. It's because you can't find a foster home for them.
It's frequently older kids that are hard to place. They can't go back home because the parents can't handle them. The foster parents can't handle them. And some of them are full grown physically and have behavioral issues that make it very difficult. And so they were ending up in hotels and on the floor of defects offices and would require multiple people to be with each one of them because of the behavioral issues. And Commissioner Broche worked hard on that when she first got into office and uncovered this problem. And for a brief time, we were down from like 75 kids in hotels to 0 kids in hotels. So we're working hard to find other ways to manage that, and diagnosing and treating those kids early that have any kind of challenges, particularly autism, is very important.
Well, I know yesterday it was your committee that you had to talk about HB 431 you just talked about, and then you also discussed SR 622 because you need another committee because it's specifically, you really want to look into the rising costs of foster care. We know the Department of Human Services is projecting a funding deficit of $85 million.
Yes, and that was already a problem, and then the government shutdown just delayed money coming in from the feds that really made the issue very acute, and resulted, because we balance our budget at the state level and don't spend money that we don't have, we ended up having to cut programs. I'm saying we, but it's the agency that had to do it. Yeah. And there are multiple reasons why that happened. Some of the people with complex needs, and then there's also a problem with getting the medical care in a timely way that some of the kids need. So we decided that it needed a deeper dive, and we're going to spend a lot of time this summer figuring out not just how we got here, but what are solutions? How can we fix it?
Yeah, and I know when you say deeper dive, you really get into it. Among the people who spoke yesterday was someone who was spent for nearly 17 years in foster care and requested that someone like him should be on the committee. So let's hear from him.
If Georgia is serious about understanding the true cost of foster care, then we must also be intentional about listening to the people who live those costs every day.
So full disclosure on that, I've known Reginald Holloway since he was a teenager living in foster care when I was volunteering at a place where he was in foster care. So how important is it to hear from someone like Reginald Holloway?
I told him before our committee met yesterday that he's making change. He's going to result in a law change. From the stories that he told our foster committee, he wasn't the only one with lived experience that came and spoke to us. But it is very important to hear from people who've actually been through experiences that some of which we really don't want to hear about because they're so awful. But he's a very successful young man, and I'm very proud of him. And what I spoke to him about is it's a joint study committee with the House, so the bills have to exactly match. And so we're going to work with the House on how to make that happen.
Yeah, he really is a success story. He graduated from West Georgia College, mainly couch surfing, like didn't have a place to go. So
exactly.
we really are proud of him. And thank you so much for what you're doing in this area of foster care.
There's so much more work to be done.
Okay, you've got a bill tomorrow on the floor.
I do.
Okay.
I have a bill tomorrow that has to do with unclaimed property.
Okay. All right, tell me briefly about it.
We know that the state has over $3 billion of Georgia citizens' money that they're holding in the Department of Revenue.
Wow.
And there are all kinds of problems with getting that money back to the people that it belongs to. So this bill is going to clean that up.
And there will be a lot of interest in it, I can tell.
I'm pretty sure their website's going to blow up.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on the show.